Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well, and welcome to another bike news, this time for November 2020. 5 copies of MT-10 to go through, grab yourself a brew, let's talk about motorbikes. Okay, so we'll crack on with the news review in a second. Lots to talk about, packed papers this month to go through. At the end of the video, if you're interested, I'll go through some of my parish notices telling you some of the stuff that's coming up on the channel, so stick around and stay tuned for that if you wish. And one more thing before we get cracking, you may notice a slightly different look to proceedings today. I don't know if you can notice any difference, but I'm actually using a new mic and a new camera. I've gone with the GoPro 9 with all the fancy bits and pieces. So let me know if you think this picture is any worse or better than before, and I know whether I wasted me money. All right, let's crack on with the news then. First paper. All right, seems a long time ago when I read this one. Loads of stories to go through this month, as I say. It's that time of year, isn't it, when all the new bikes come out. So it's lots of updates and new models to talk about. First up, MT-09 ups its tech game. This is the brand new Yamaha MT-09. I say brand new because it's basically a new bike. They've changed everything on this. So here we go. It's now, the engine is, it's a CP3 triple as it was before, but it's been given a capacity boost. It was 847cc before, it's now 889cc. They've overhauled the innards. It's got new pistons, conrods, camshafts and cases, and it's got a 1.7 kilogram weight loss as well, always a good thing. They've done some work on the intake, the exhaust. They've given it some more noise to heighten the feeling of acceleration. Nice one, Yamaha, I like the sound of that. It's got a brand new frame and subframe. Told you it's basically a new bike. 3.8 kilograms dropped between those two, so more weight savings. It's got revised suspension. The brakes have received an update. It's got a completely new redesigned face. Talking of which, that I guess is the controversial thing. Not a great picture of it here in the paper, but what do you make of the new MT-09 looks wise? I have to say it doesn't quite work for me. I'm not too sure about the restyled front end and indeed the fuel tank. I think they've made a bike that looked okay into one that looks a bit, well, pants really, which is a shame because the MT-09 is a great bike. Be thoroughly interested to hear whether I'm in a minority on that. It is of course just a personal preference thing. Stick your comments below, like to hear. What else? Electronics have had a complete overhaul. It's got a 6-axis IMU now. By goodness me, it's absolutely packed with stuff. Price of the new bike is expected in January, with bikes arriving in dealers by mid-March, so we'll see it early next year. Hopefully I might get a ride on one and I'll bring you a review if I do. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it was a great bike, big seller for Yamaha. Let's hope they haven't spoilt it by doing this styling exercise. All right, swiftly moving on. So many new bikes. Next up, the Grom. Honda Grom's had an update. It's been around for a little while, hasn't it? So it says here, Honda's MSX125 mini bike is getting a significant update for 2021. This is basically because it needs to pass Euro 5, as all bikes do. It's now called officially the MX125 Grom. It didn't used to be called the Grom here, it was just the MX125, but now it's the same across the globe, so we all know what we're talking about. The gearbox is now 5-speed. Internal updates have made everything run a bit smoother, and it can now do, would you believe, over 150 miles per gallon. Incredible. The biggest change is arguably the styling. The thing looks completely different now. It's got a revised LCD dash. Pricing is to be confirmed, but the Grom is expected to be in dealers by March next year. Again, usually when these bikes come out from the launches. So what do you think to the Grom? Again, I don't want to be old Mr. Miserable here this month, but I've never really got the Grom. I've never ridden a Grom. I have ridden one of these sort of mini bikes. I rode the, what was it? The Benelli version of this. And actually, I have to say, it was great fun. I actually think the Benelli looked a bit better as well. Very cheap, obviously very frugal to run with at 150 miles per gallon. That's certainly an appeal. But as for the actual looks of the bike now, I have to say it doesn't do it for me once again. And also, I just think they look ridiculous with a fully grown adult on them. I just don't get them. There's something about the Grom that I'm missing. Yes, I'm sure they're amazing fun to ride, and yes, of course, they're great value. Or they were. I don't know what the price of the new one's going to be. But I don't know. There's something about them that just rubs me up the wrong way. I don't know. I don't want to be Mr. Miserable. There are more bikes coming that I do love, but the Grom doesn't work for me. Again, interested if I'm in the minority there, or whether you agree. Swiftly moving on, then next one, classic cruiser. BMW waved their heritage wand over the big Boxer. Now you remember the R18 that we talked about on previous bike news, and I actually rode it and I did a review. I'll put a link to my video in the corner. Is it that side or that? I don't know. Whichever side, I'll show you what I thought of that. I thought it was a great bike to ride actually. I'm not a massive cruiser fan, but this one actually was much nicer than I expected it was going to be. It's a thing of beauty when you see it in the flesh. BMW have now come out with their first variant, a sort of a touring version if you like. What's it different then? So it comes with cruise control as standard, that's good. Where it differs mostly from the original bike is in styling and setup. The front wheel has a, it's got a 16-inch front wheel with a larger volume tyre, so it's got a bit more of a bulbous look at the front end. This is called the Classic, by the way. It's got thicker padding in the saddle, makes it more comfortable, I assume, and a 20mm higher seat height with bigger footboards. It's got a removable windscreen, a pair of detachable saddlebags, a pair of fork-mounted fog lights for a bit of extra retro chic, as well as practicality and poor visibility, it says here. It weighs another 20 kilograms on top of the, let's face it, already heavy bike. I can't remember off the top of my head how heavy it was, but another 20 kilograms for these bits and pieces. It will set you back 20,980 when it arrives in UK dealers in spring 2021. So expensive bit of kit. It says here, and that's before you've added reverse and a set of heated grips, etc. Pick all the nice bits and you won't get much change from 25 grand, it says here. Yeah, quite a lot. Well, let's face it, an awful lot of money for a bike, but with the screen and the bags, the extra comfort, it's going to make it a nice touring proposition. If you've got that sort of money kicking around and you like retro cruisers, I think it's a lovely bit of kit. It does say here though, the incredibly similar Harley Davidson Softail Heritage is 18,995. Now, I've not ridden the Harley, I've ridden very few Harleys. I'd love a go on it, because I do quite like the way this looks now. I must admit, I'm being swung over to these sort of bikes the more of them I ride. But the Harley Davidson is less than 19 grand, and let's face it, that's the original, isn't it? Often with these bikes, the original is the best. So it's hard to justify 25 grand against 19, isn't it? But I'll have to ride the Harley to let you know for sure. Anyway, again, interested in your view on this new variant of the R18, 20,980, 365 kilograms wet. Heavy old beast, but with its low seat height, probably easy to manage. The R18 was fine. Okay, next up, while we are mentioning Harley Davidson, do you remember the Pan America, which we saw at the shows? I think we saw it at the NEC, if not last year, the year before. This is their sort of adventure bike that I think looks a little bit like a vacuum cleaner crossed with a 1960s cartoon sci-fi character. Again, this is one of those bikes, I absolutely hated it when I first saw it, and I felt no better when I saw it in the flesh at the show. But actually, now I look at it, it's starting to grow on me a bit. I don't know if it's going to be one of these bikes that is a grower. But anyway, Harley Davidson were due to launch it this year, then COVID struck, so they announced they were going to delay it by a year, and apparently they are now taking orders for the bike. So MCN are saying here they therefore expect the model to arrive no later than March, so keep your eyes open for this at dealers. They talked to the designer of the bike, and he said the intention was to make a two-wheeled Jeep. I think he's kind of achieved that with the look. It's got a big TFT dash, multi-button switchgear, adjustable screen, cruise control, heated grips, Brembo brakes, and some level of electronic suspension adjustability. And it makes 145 brake horsepower and 90 pounds-feet of torque. So it puts it in BMW R1250 GS territory, basically. It says here, MCM will bring you official details of availability and price when we get them, and I will report those on duly. So there we go. Again, what do you make of that? It's I hate to say this again, but this one's not really my cup of tea, but I reserve judgment. I love to have a go. And, you know, Harley, I think no one likes to see bike manufacturers going down the pan. I'm not saying Harley are, but the general vibe on the street whenever you hear people talking about Harley Davidson is they're not quite getting there these days. And of course they've got a massive following in the US, but maybe not much outside the US. Maybe the US market is enough to sustain them, but I'd hate to see Harley go down the pan. So let's hope that does something good for them. Right, next up, a letter I just want to pull out here, it's actually, or an email from a lady called Deb, and this was because in one of the editorials a few months back, the editor of MTN, Rich Newland, hello Rich if you're watching, he said that, you know, biking's too much of an old boys club. Why is it just chaps like me that ride bikes? Why do we not seeing, you know, more younger people, more ladies, etc.? Anyway, this lady Deb wrote in and said that as a female rider, I passed my test about a decade ago, and as I had no one else to ride with, I joined an owners club. Seems like a good idea. There was, however, a group of men who felt the club should be a male preserve and were frequently sexist and insulting, dressing it up as banter. We all know how this sort of stuff works. And it really upset her. I didn't let them bully me out of the club, and she stayed on anyway. So she was saying that it's not the activity of motorcycling itself that means it's an old, you know, it's an old boys club, but it's that barrier, the attitudes that have to be faced by those who aren't white and male to join in with biking. I completely understand that, Deb. It's a real shame that she's had that experience, and you know, if you're one of those guys, let's not do that. I mean, biking is just cool, whoever does it, and I'm all for encouraging as many people to ride, particularly more females, as possible. So if you're in a riding group of some sort, and you know, a lady wants to join, make her feel welcome. Let's get more female riders as we can. Let's make that a bit of a mission for the next year, should we? Everybody's going to win then, aren't they? All right, next up, final story in this first issue of the paper for this month's review. Affordable retros. I couldn't pass this one up because they pitted in one of their 250 mile road tests the Royal Enfield 650 Interceptor, of which I'm a big fan and owner, against the Fantic Caballero 500 Scrambler Deluxe. Now I have ridden the Fantic Caballero, not the Deluxe version but the normal version, but it's a very similar sort of bike. Let's see what they came up with in terms of their verdict. It says here, the Interceptor is almost unchallenged as being the best affordable retro. I wouldn't disagree with that. By ticking literally all the retro rows to boxes, by also proving to be a decent, pleasant ride and chiming in for £2.5 grand less than the cheapest Bonneville, the Enfield is so compelling. Completely agree. I love the Enfield, as you know, so I'm a bit biased here. The Caballero might not be as true a retro. It might not be as cheap as Enfield and have limited range, but as a real world B-road blaster or town bike with bags on trend cool, there are a few bikes better. So it's not actually said whether it's better than Enfield or not, but it's certainly, they're saying, as good as. And looking at the star ratings here, they've given them both 4 out of 5 stars. Personally, again, maybe I'm biased, but I prefer the Interceptor. I have to say, it just looks more, to my mind, more authentic as a retro. Again, the Caballero is not intended to be a retro, and also I just prefer the engine on the Interceptor. It felt a bit more grunty, or a lot more grunty to be fair, than the Caballero did. But again, I think it's a bit of an odd comparison because the Caballero is designed as a sort of a classic looking Scrambler off-road bike, whereas, and I think it's a single as well, isn't it? Yeah, it's a 449cc single. Comparing it with a 650cc twin, bit of an odd comparison maybe, but there we go. All right, so that's it for the first paper. Swiftly moving on and having a swig of my tea. TMF mugs available at my website, as is my base layer, by the way. Little Christmas Prezi idea for you if it's not too late yet. Next up, my website, by the way, www.themissingflower.com. You got it. Right, moving on. Advert over. Next bike here, Trident, packs big value punch. Now, you know I'm a Triumph fanboy, self-confessed, and I love the looks of this new Triumph Trident. Can't wait to have a ride on it. Basically, this article here is saying that it's taking aim at the MT-07, which of course is, we knew that anyway when they launched the bike. It says here though that it's not just a reskinned Street Triple S. It has had a lot of genuine changes. So things like the engine is completely different. The bore and stroke are different. New piston, new crank, new cylinder head, new cases, new clutch, new liners, new camshafts. In fact, it says here it would be simpler to name the parts that are the same. So, you know, if you change all those parts in the engine, it's a new engine, isn't it? So I was guilty of thinking this was just from the Street Triple S originally, but it's definitely not. It is a new engine. The Trident comes with 2 riding modes as well. ABS, of course. It's got various levels to their ABS as well. Triumph claim their ABS levels are set at full lean. Okay, going some way to imitating the function of full cornering ABS. Interesting claim. It's got the latest colour TFT display. We'll wait and see what that's like. I'm not a big fan of Triumph TFTs, I have to say. The dash on the Trident can be paired with a smartphone. Big deal. If you buy the connectivity module, that's a bit of a blow. The Trident comes with a 2-year unlimited mileage warranty, and it's $7,199, which I think is a great price for a bike that looks this cool. Really looking forward to having a go on that. That's possibly one of the most anticipated bikes for me personally to ride in 2021 early, I hope. And then there was another story on this page that I just wanted to pick out. Again, we talked about the MT-09 having an update earlier. The MT-07, the Trident's competitor, has had an update as well. It's had a restyling again. Not sure, actually, in the case of the MT-07, I think it might have improved it. The MT-07 has a bold, fresh look centered around the new 3-part LED headlight. The tank has been reshaped. Yamaha say they've improved the finish generally for a more premium look. Good stuff. Engine has been updated for Euro 5. It's involved a new 2-into-1 pipe and a new ECU. It's got wider bars, new tyres, and a new dash as well. So a useful update to the MT-07, which unlike the MT-09, I think has improved the bike. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I haven't ridden the MT-07 very much. If I get to ride the Trident for any length, I'll try and bring you a back-to-back and see if I can do a comparison. No promises, because I need to get both bikes at the same time. Not easy for just a normal individual like myself. But we'll see what we can do. That would be a good comparison to do. Okay, next story in this paper. New just in, Guardsman shed barrier. I've got to mention this because Image 4 Security, who are the guys that make the shed barriers and my garage door barrier, you might have seen that on my videos. It's a brilliant bit of kit. They sponsor the channel as well. They brought out this new shed barrier, £349.99. Great idea if you've got a shed. Sadly, I haven't got a shed, but there you go. There we are. Check out the website, image4security.com, or indeed there's a link below. If you want the garage door barrier, which I'm a massive fan of, which is how I got to know Image 4 Security, I can still get you 50 quid off those as well. There's a link below to follow and a code. I think it's TMF50 if you want to get yourself 50 quid off the garage door one. All right, slipped in another advert there. Did you see that? Okay, moving on. Next up, I'll try not to do any more adverts, I do apologise. Next up, Challenger Bagger Crown. Here we go. So this is the Indian Challenger that has won a new race that was run at Laguna Seca last month, called the King of the Baggers. The reason why I mention this is two things. I just love the idea of these baggers racing, and also I got to ride a Challenger a couple of weeks ago. In fact, just before lockdown, it was the day before lockdown 2.0 here in England. I rode the Indian Challenger. Review coming up soon on the channel if you're interested in this bike. It's something that I just thought looked hideous with this massive fairing, but I was again quite surprised. I won't spoil the review. Wait until it comes out. I think it might be early in the new year that one comes out. But yeah, I've ridden two Indians now. Lovely bikes. All right, what else did it say here? So it says here the race at Laguna Seca was spawned from a growing bagger custom scene, which I just think is hilarious, where customizers breathe on the traditional full-dress tourers. The winning machine this year was the Indian Challenger, but S&S have done some serious work to turn it from a luxury cruiser into a stripped-down racer. So this was no normal Indian Challenger, but yeah, what a beast. Incredible. Just gives me a smile looking at that thing. All right, moving on. Massive Attack, another of these 250-mile MCN Challengers that I like. This time the BMW R18 up against the Triumph Rocket 3 GT, both bikes that I've ridden. Well, actually I didn't ride the GT, I rode the non-GT, which I can't remember what it's called, but you know the one I mean, but basically the same bike. So the R18 is 19 grand, the Triumph Rocket 2200, so a little bit more expensive for the Rocket. Which one would you have? Let's see what MCN said. Both deliver, but in different ways. The 2500cc Rocket is a hilarious force of nature, but its brilliance is in also being impressively versatile and manageable. Actually, I disagree with that. I don't think it's particularly versatile. Anyway, what else did they say? All of that for 20k almost seems a bargain. The R18, by contrast, is finely sculpted piece of art. I agree with that. So slick you want to stroke it. Now, you don't seem to get much for your 20k, but the R18 does bring a huge amount of BMW quality to the custom bike class, and maybe that's enough. Yeah, maybe it is. The R18, as I say, I love that bike. I do love the Rocket as well, by the way. But the Rocket, which I had for a while, I had it for a few weeks, I just found after a while, the incredible torque of the bike kind of wore off on me, and just the heaviness of moving in and out of the garage became a bit tiresome. And now I sort of kind of think of it as a one-trick pony. I think the R18 might go the same way if you actually owned it. I've only had a brief 1 hour test ride, 1 hour or so test ride on the R18, but it was a thing of beauty, as is the Triumph. They've given each 4 stars out of 5, and I must say I would struggle to choose between the both of them as well. At the moment I'm slightly biased towards the R18 actually, which for somebody who loves Triumphs like me, I love BMWs too, is slightly odd. I just love the speedo on the R18. I know that's a silly excuse to buy a bike, but comparing that with the TFT on the Triumph, which is a bit naff, I think you're going to be looking at that thing a lot. I'll probably go R18, but anyway, I need to borrow an R18 long term and see if I end up thinking that's a one-trick pony like I did with the Rocket 3. But both amazing bikes, but 20 grand, expensive propositions. Alrighty, how are we doing for time? Around about 20 minutes in, I think. Next paper then. Gosh, 7 stories in this one. There's been so much going on. This is, as I say, going to be a long video, so sorry about that. Next up, a different Strada, the brand new Multistrada V4 that we've been teased about for ages, has now properly broken cover. Here's a beautiful picture of it. What do they say about this? The bike's Gran Turismo V4 engine produces 168 brake horsepower at 10,500 RPM, 92 foot-pounds of torque at 8,750 RPM, so considerably more than things like the BMW GS, of course. So this is very much a sports bike fan's adventure bike, I would describe it as. They've done away with the desmodromic valves. We talked about that on a previous bike news, and it now has got an impressive 37,000 mile valve service interval, which takes some of the cost of ownership away from this, which I think is a good move, although some Ducati aficionados are a little bit against it, I imagine. Gone is the single-sided swing arm, which is a real shame because I thought that looked good. It's the first model to go into production with radar-guided cruise control, which, by the way, will cost you 2 grand, well, 1,950 as an option. Do you want radar-guided cruise control for 2 grand extra? I think I'd pass on that particular option. Also, it's got a rear-facing radar unit to warn you of traffic at the side, so it's got a blind spot detector, part of that. Now that I do like the sound of. Now you're talking. I might be willing to spend 2 grand on a blind spot detector. Maybe not 2 grand, but it's a better idea than the radar cruise control. 2 together, maybe I'd spend 500 quid, but 2 grand seems a lot. The Multistrada V4 weighs in at 215 kilograms dry, so quite heavy. It's 3 kilograms heavier than the outgoing 1260 in S trim, but given it's now a 4-cylinder bike, that's pretty clever how they've done that. and it would cost you from here, it says £15,495. So again, time you spec it up, you're probably looking at about 18 grand. Does look beautiful. I've always been a Multistrada fan in terms of its looks. Again, I'm a Ducati fanboy too. They cannot knock out a bad looking bike, can they? At least I can't think of one. Yeah, beautiful machine. If you like a bit of performance, then the Multistrada, and you like the comfort of an upright adventure bike, the Multistrada, definitely worth a look if you've got 18-ish grand burning a hole in your pocket. Lovely machine. I definitely want to have a go at that one next year. Okay, next, other end of the spectrum to some degree, brand new Honda NC750X, or rather an updated version of it. I rode this out in the Canary Islands a few years back, not this new one, but the previous version. Quite enjoyed it. Amazing bike in terms of being like a commuter bike, just practical, good value for money. This one now had a styling update, and I can't make my mind up whether I like the looks of it or not. It's got this weird sort of lip front light, which makes it, again, look a little bit, I don't know, reminds me of a vacuum cleaner. I don't know why. Why do bikes do that? But anyway, what does it say here? So updated version of the NC750X and the X-ADV, the off-roady type scooter come motorbike, which I've also ridden. Both machines use the new 58 brake horsepower 750cc parallel twin engine and the DCT gearbox. Great news. Get this with the DCT if you're interested, because I did find on the non-DCT model I rode, the previous version, you were forever having to change gear. The engine in here famously is half of a Honda something, one of the car engines, which may be an urban myth, but it does need a bit of frequent stirring. The DCT makes an awful lot of sense on this bike. It's got shorter ratios in the first 3 gears to give it a bit more punch. 6 kilogram weight loss as well, which is no mean feat. 3 riding modes, sport, rain and standard. They've added an extra litre of storage to the brilliant thing on the NC750, which is what looks like the fuel tank is actually a big storage area. You can actually get a helmet in there. They made that even better, so it's a super practical bike. Good alternative to a twist and go scooter if you want something that looks more motorbikey. What else does it say here? The NC750 should be around £7,500 or £8,000 with DCT. Again, if you just want a good, honest, super reliable, super frugal, super practical bike to ride to work every day, will never let you down, do think of the NC750X and get the DCT version. Brilliant. Yeah, that's an interesting update for that. It's not going to win any races. It's not going to thrill and excite you particularly, but it is a proper practical mode of transport map. Oh, next story. Definitely wanted to tell you about this. This is a shocker. The National Motorcycle Museum in Birmingham, you will have seen it as you come out the NEC, it's basically there in front of you. I've been a couple of times, it's an amazing collection and I plan to go again, but like so many museums that have had to be closed due to COVID, it's up against loads of financial issues. Now they did apply to the government for something called a grant from the Recovery Fund, which is something that they've set up to help museums like this. But would you believe, whilst the government had given out 1,300 grants to various museums, the National Motorcycle Museum got nothing. Now here's some examples of stuff that did get stuff. So the Postal Museum got £860,000. Yes, the Postal Museum, have you ever heard of that? 860 grand they got. The Stained Glass Museum, £71,000 they got. The Too Funky Music Cafe got £92,000, and the Toulouse-Lautrec Jazz Club got 246 grand. £250,000, yet the bike museum got absolutely nothing. What is that all about? This is a ridiculous injustice. Write your MP, I reckon, here. So what did it say here? No reasons have been given as to why, and there's no right of appeal apparently as to why they didn't get a grant. And to try and counter it, the museum, which opened in 1984, is hoping that its COVID-19 raffle that it's set up will go some way to raise enough funds to allow it to have a limited reopening next year. I just think this is outrageous. If you want to enter the raffle, which I do think is a great idea, then www.nationalmotorcyclemuseum.co.uk. Go check out the website. I thoroughly urge you to do this. I'm going to do this first thing after I've recorded this video. www.nationalmotorcyclemuseum.co.uk. Take part in their raffle, save this amazing museum for us. And if you're as enraged about this as I am, write your MP as well. That's the third thing I'm going to do after I finish this this review. All right, moving on. Flying in from outer space, new Enfield Meteor could be the ultimate budget city bike. Yet another new bike from another brand that I'm a big fan of. I love British bikes, and I know Royal Enfield is a thoroughly Indian brand, so I'm not taking anything away from the Indian owners, but the fact that it was a British bike and the design and the testing is now done in the UK means I love this brand even more. Anyway, new bike they're bringing out called the Meteor, a name from the past in Royal Enfield. It's a single cylinder machine. Let me read what they've said here. So Royal Enfield have unveiled their new Meteor 350. Great size, I think, for real world riding. It's got a brand new 349 single overhead cam, air and oil cooled single piston engine. It's got a peak power of 20.2 bhp, not a lot, but enough, I would wager. We'd imagine the little single will sip at fuel. I imagine it'll be super frugal. You know, it's another 100 miles per gallon job or something like that. Main dash is comprised of a really old school, cool analog speedo with an LCD info panel sat inside. Royal Enfield have got this exactly right. The speedo on here looks like speedos used to look, yet they've still got modern functionality with the LCD bit in the middle. It's also got on the right of that a little colour TFT. I don't know if you've seen any pictures of this. This is great. It pairs up with your smartphone and it basically becomes a sat nav. What a great idea. I don't think we've got prices here. They reckon price will be revealed next month, but fingers crossed it sneaks in at around £4,000. If this comes in at £4,000, this is going to fly off the shelves. This is the sort of thing that I wish Triumph would make. Unbelievable, 400cc single. Now the old singles from Royal Enfield were pretty rough, it has to be said. The old classic 500, which I did enjoy as a bike to ride, and it had bags of character, but it wasn't necessarily in a good way. This apparently is a much smoother proposition, much smoother than the old 500cc unit. I cannot wait to ride one of these. I've already been in touch with Royal Enfield about whether I can have a go on one of these early on, so fingers crossed they let me do that. There's something about the seat I don't like about it. This isn't a great picture to show you the seat, but the rest of it looks good and I cannot wait to have a go. If it comes in at £4,000, I'm really going to need to extend my garage some more. Okay, talking about brilliant bikes that are for not a lot of money, what I'd buy right now with £2,500. This fella here, Mario Costa Sa, sorry, I forgot your name wrong, Mario. He said he would buy a 2012 Honda CRF 250L. I'm a huge fan of these. I've run one of these since 2014. Brilliant bike. I actually sold mine about 5 or 6 weeks ago now. I almost regret to say, but a brilliant bike. The reason I sold it is, number one, main reason is I need some room in my garage. The garage is just getting too full, and I kind of run out of all the local green lanes and off-road places I can ride it here, but that in no way diminishes my love for this bike. It's reliable, bulletproof, great fun, cheap to run, cheap to own. Thoroughly agree with Mario here. Get yourself a Honda CRF 250L if you're at all interested in learning about doing a little bit of light green laning. What does it say here? If you're considering a bit of trail riding but don't want to risk taking to the ruts on a big heavy adventure bike, what do you buy? Well, according to the Trail Riders Fellowship Chair, Mario Costa Sa, he does know what he's talking about, this guy. There's only one answer, the Honda CRF 250L. Good on you, Mario, for recommending that. If you spend £2,500 on one tomorrow, you'll probably get the same back in 5 years' time, as there's always a demand for them. It's a Swiss Army knife of bikes, perfect for new or inexperienced green lane riders alike, and I absolutely love it. For £2,500, it can't be beaten. Well, good luck at finding one for £2,500, I have to say. Having done a bit of a trawl of the market recently when I came to sell mine, you know, they are quite hard to come by, and they do hold their value well. So but they are great bikes, and even if you buy one new, I think they're only around about the £5,000 mark, so definitely worth considering. Right, next up, another of these MCN 250 mile road tests. This time they pitted the Triumph Tiger 900 GT Pro against the Ducati Multistrada 950S. Now, I did ride a 950 Multistrada a couple of years ago now, and I did ride the Triumph Tiger 900, not the GT Pro, relatively recently this year. Loved that bike. Out of the two, without looking at the verdicts yet, I found the Multistrada was a little bit too top heavy for my liking, but it does have the amazing Multistrada looks and go, so it's a beautiful bike. But I really did love the Triumph Tiger 900. Let's see if MCN agree with me. The verdict here: the new Tiger 900 GT Pro is fast, refined, sporty, and can ably handle anything you throw at it, but it's easy to find the limit of its skinny off-road tyres on tarmac, especially in the wet, and its motorway weather protection could be better. The Multistrada 950S might cost £1,000 more, but it's the more rounded machine, costs it on the long haul, is more sure-footed in the corners, and ultimately more exciting. Well, I definitely agree that it's more exciting. I'm not sure overall that it's more rounded though, and given, you know, money no object and space no object, personally out of the two, I'd have the Triumph, no doubt. They've given the Triumph 4 out of 5 and the Multistrada 5 out of 5. Good to see a bit of difference between the bikes for once from MCN, but I'm of the opposite view. I'd have gone the other way. I would have given the Multistrada 4 out of 5 and the Tiger 5 out of 5. Interested in your views on that one. Stick again, comments below. Do you agree or disagree with me? Right, last story here. Couldn't go through the paper without mentioning this. My old mate Alan Millyard, he was like the guest editor in this particular edition. So if you're interested in this, and it's a great article, I won't go through it. There's pages of it all about, you know, engineering stuff and Alan Millyard related stuff. Great guy. And it's the November the 11th edition you're looking forward to. So if you want to do a back order of MCN and read what Alan has contributed to the paper, do that. I encourage you to do so. November the 11th issue, you can go and get back orders. I think if you go to www.greatmagazines.com is where you sign up to MCN. So check that out, get yourself a copy of that, read what Alan's got to say. Alrighty, 3 of 5, moving on. Even me tea's going cold. How are we doing for time? Gosh, 30 minutes already. Next up, Crouching Tiger, hidden softly. Talking of the Tiger 900, as we just were, Triumph this month announced the new Tiger 850 Sport. And again, I put a sort of reveal video of that bike up. If you haven't seen that, go and check it out. I'll put a link in the corner. And this is interesting. This is the bike that replaces the base model Tiger 900, which when I did my Tiger 900 reviews, I said of all the bikes, I would probably get the base model because I didn't need all the fancy electronics and I'm not a big fan of the TFT, etc. So here they go. Triumph have listened, not necessarily to me, but maybe to others too, and have come out with this, which is a base version of the bike. To differentiate it from the 900, they've called it the 850 Sport, but it's still the 900cc engine. It's just a little bit more basic and a bit more better value for money. So this will cost you £9,300, and you get basically all the fun of the triple on the full fat Tiger 900, if you like. I think it's about £3 grandish, something like that, cheaper than the full fat, as I call it, Tiger 900. And on top of that, it's got these funky new paint schemes that I think look absolutely brilliant. So well done Triumph for this one. I think it's a blinder. Again, really want to have a go on this. I think it's an absolute winner. Check out my video for more details on it. Really like the Tiger 850 Sport. Been quite a lot of comments on that video about why they call it an 850 Sport. People were expecting Tiger Sport to replace the 1050 Tiger Sport. Remember that? It's still in the lineup here in the UK. I love that bike too. Don't know what's going to happen to that. Are they going to keep going with that? I don't know. I did ask Triumph that very question and they said basically no comment. So read into that what you like. But I'd love to see a new Tiger 1050 or uprated version of it to replace their sort of sport touring big off-roady bike that they have here in the UK. I know they don't sell it elsewhere, but anyway, there we go. So that's the Tiger 850 Sport. I commend that to the house. It looks like a great value bike to me if you want to buy into the Tiger, the Triumph adventure bike stuff. Talking of which, Tracer, and that's not really an adventure bike, or is it? It's sort of a touring bike. The Tracer 900 gets an update. No big surprise given the MT-09 got that big update as well. This time, I think the looks look pretty good on it. They've done a good job on this, what do you reckon? The odd thing with this is now actually got 2 TFTs. You know, one's not enough, why not have 2? And actually, they look quite purposeful on here, don't they? We'll see what it's like to ride, but good that they're doing something different. I quite like the look of that. We'll see what they're like in actual usage. Bike itself, let's read what it says. Hot on the Hills, the MT-09, comes the Tracer 9 and 9 GT. Sports Tourer is powered by the same new triple engine. Capacity has been boosted to 890cc, 4 brake horsepower power gain. Probably won't notice that. New chassis, it's stronger and lighter than before. It's got the new 6-axis IMU as well from the MT-09. It's got multi-stage slide control and wheelie control. Wild. Cruise control is standard. The new twin dash setup I mentioned, 2 3-inch TFTs, all manner of information available. The GT carryover, so what does it say here? All the usual bits you'd expect on the GT carryover, so that means heated grips, LED cornering lights, quick shifter, colour matched panniers. We don't know the prices yet, but we're expecting it to be launched in early 2021, dealers in March, so we'll find out the prices soon enough. But I think that looks like a nice bike now. They've done, not it didn't look nice before, but they've done a good job on that. So yeah, we'll see what that's like to ride, maybe. Next up, get them on the blower. Here we are. Now, a lot of people have mentioned, well, a few people have mentioned in some of my comments about an MT-10 turbocharged bike on the cards. Maybe those comments are coming from this. This is a prototype bike that has been spotted by MCN, and it's an MT-10 Tour Edition that has what appears to be a turbocharged engine. Yamaha have been talking about it. They've been pioneering high-tech turbocharged bikes for a while, apparently, because they promise higher power and lower emissions, which of course in these times of more regulation is a good thing. They've began work on a new engine to try and meet those targets. And before they began work on the new engine, it says here they set themselves some targets. It needed to create more than 125 foot-pound of torque, a good number, and more than 197 brake horsepower per 1000 cc, so that's more than an R1. While maintaining a linear torque curve and passing Euro 5, and all that from an 850cc triple. That's what they're aiming to do. Yamaha have said, astonishingly, they didn't just meet the targets, but they've smashed them. They've got peak power at 180 brake horsepower at 8,000 RPM, and that works out at 208 brake horsepower per litre. Incredible numbers. So they're saying by combining aggressive boost control with a modern quick shifter, there's no turbo lag. It's basically been eradicated completely, so that would be quite a ride. So this sounds great, doesn't it? I love the MT-10 as well, if it's going to go in the MT-10. So I was getting all excited. Then I got to the end of the article, and it says here, all things going to plan, Yamaha look to put something into production by 2030. Elon Musk will have his people living on Mars by then. That's ridiculous. So it looks like that's either a typo, or it's going to be a long wait before we see the turbocharged bike, but at least they're doing it. But 2030, what's going on there? Right, next story. Well, the 250 mile test that I love when they pit two bikes together. So this is the new R1250R SE against the Ducati Monster 1200 S. And it says here, past masters. Yeah, they're not new bikes, sorry. These are old bikes that probably need an update. So they're saying here, past masters is the headline. These big bore thumping naked twins were born for the road. So why are more of us not buying them? I guess it might be because they're getting a bit long in the tooth now. Let's see what the verdict is. Next to the Monster, the R1250R does lose a bit of its shine, but it's far from a bad bike. Now, I rode the R1250R, seems ages ago now, probably 18 months ago. And yeah, I agree. Nice bike, nothing wrong with it. It's got the BMW Boxer on it, it's got all the usual BMW bits, nothing wrong with it at all, just not that exciting. The Monster, I don't know if I've ridden the 1200S. I did ride a Monster, I'm not sure which one it was, but again, actually I had the same sort of feeling after that. Far be it from me to you know, say bad things about Ducatis or BMWs, but neither of these really lit my fire. I think they both need an update, basically. Interested to see what you think. Why don't people buy these? Is it because you agree with me, they are a little bit just meh, or you know, am I missing something? Next up, pure dynamite on value alone. Another one of these mini bikes. We do remember way back at the start of the video we talked about the new Honda Grom. Well, the Benelli TNT 125, that's what it was called, the one I rode. That's had an update as well. Here we go. And here's a picture that gives you what I was talking about before. Here's a fully grown adult on one of the TNTs. Now, it was great fun to ride when I rode it, and this has had an update, as I say. 2,299 quid, a bargain of a bike, and you will enjoy and have a lot of fun on it. But look what you look like. Does it matter? Generally speaking, I'm too old now. I don't really care what I look like when I'm on a bike. But this is just one step too far. Just, you know, he doesn't even look like a very big bloke. Why would you want to be... Well, I don't know. I missed the point of these mini bikes. Let me know what you think. I mean, it's a shame because it's really well made, and for the money, it's great. There's nothing wrong with the bike at all. I think it looks quite cool, as long as there's somebody not sat on it. Anyway, there we go. Next up. Yamaha MT-10. Seem to be talking about the MT-10 a lot this time around. I've highlighted this because this is a road test revisited that MCN have done, and I just made a note here to myself. This is just, you know, a much underrated bike. I rode the MT-10 SP probably a couple of years ago now, and it looked actually not like this, because this is the standard bike with the original grey paintwork and yellow wheels that looked a bit like an Airfix kit, but I think looked really good. And I loved the SP. It was a really lovely bike, and in fact it's one of my favourite nakeds. You know, I would have one tomorrow. I think it's a great bike. Again, don't see many of them on the road. Maybe it's due an update now. What do you make of the MT-10? I think, you know, there was a lot of hurrah when it was announced, because at this point when this came out, there weren't many bikes that had this sort of cyborgy looking front end. And at the NEC show that year, which I think was 2 years ago, it just looked different to anything else out there, and I still think looks a great bike, and with, you know, R1 innards, goes like stink as well. Really like the MT-10, much underrated, don't understand why. Why didn't you see more of them on the road? Okay, you're still with us. I said there's going to be a long one. Right, next up, how are we doing for battery? Well, battery seems to be lasting well on this new GoPro 9. That was one of the improvements to the camera. Good. How long have we been going? Blimey, 40 minutes. Could be an editing nightmare. Right, next up, first story here. Wings fit for a king, the brand new Kawasaki ZX-10R. Now, this is a sports bike I've never ridden, and it's had an update. So let me give you what it says here, and then I'll tell you what I think of it. So MCN is saying Kawasaki have given the ZX-10R a hot new look for 2021 with an aerodynamics-driven facelift. It's claimed to improve downforce by 17%. It's got some wings and stuff now. Has it got wings? Well, a styling update anyway. It's more compact, twin LED headlights, revised ram air intake, and a 40mm taller screen. It's got a track oriented riding position, new race style 4.3-inch TFT dash with Bluetooth, 200 brake horsepower. 998cc 4-cylinder motor. It's largely unchanged, the motor. Chassis is also largely unchanged. That's mostly a cosmetic update, this one. Suspension spring rates and settings are also slightly revised. And it will cost you, when it arrives in the shops next May, $15,799 here. Now if you compare that with a stock Fireblade, that's $19,999, so considerably cheaper than the Honda offering. And the Yamaha R1 is $16,947, so it's 17 grand. Now out of the Yamaha, the Fireblade, both of which I have ridden, and the ZX-10, I have to say on looks alone, the Yamaha beats it out of the park. The Yamaha's a much better looking bike to my mind. And then for me comes the Fireblade, which isn't a bad looking bike. And then comes this, sorry Kawasaki, monstrosity. What have they done to it? It just doesn't, I don't think it looked that good before, to be fair. And for me, this doesn't do anything more for me. They sort of cut out the front a bit, and it's got a bit more Panigale about it, which is a good thing, but it still doesn't quite work. And I've got a thing with the green. I know it's Kawasaki's corporate colour, so they ain't going to change that overnight, but you've got to come out, Kawasaki, I think, with more than just green and black options for your bikes. They may do the odd other option as well, but why is it that and it's not just Kawasaki that do this, but the colour schemes on bikes just aren't that exciting these days, are they? Triumph is a big criminal when it comes to this as well. Don't make very exciting colour schemes. They've got to change that. I guess other colour schemes don't sell well, that's why they don't do it, otherwise they would do, but I'm surprised at that. And the whole green thing just puts me off of Kawasaki's a little bit. I don't know why. I've got nothing against them particularly. I haven't ridden that many of them, to be fair, and I've never ridden a ZX-10R. I'd love a go on one, so Kawasaki, if you're listening, please go and have a go on one. But in terms of looks, it doesn't work for me. It is of course just a personal preference thing. You may love it, which is great, but let's see how that sells compared to the others. Would you go for one of these over a Yamaha R1? Let me know in the comments below. Right, next story. As I say, well, I've got another 3 to go after this, and then we'll do some parish notices, and then we'll wrap up, because it's going on a long time. Sorry about that. New S1000R, long overdue bike. BMW Super Naked gets even more super, it says here. Now, the S1000R is a lovely bike to ride. And I haven't ridden the new one, but I rode the previous model. Loved what it was like to ride. Comfortable, super powerful, very fast, had all the creature comforts. Basically, naked bikes are just in the sweet spot, aren't they, for old fellas like me? They go as well as sports bike, they're just more comfortable. What a winning combination. What I didn't like about the old one was the asymmetric front end that BMW used to do. Luckily that has gone now. They've got this lovely new front end on it. I think this is going to be an absolute winner. This is going to be towards the top of my list of bikes to ride next year. Hopefully I'll get hold of one. So it says here, Phil West says, BMW's all-new, eagerly anticipated S1000R is lighter and more sophisticated than ever. Well, lighter is a good thing. It's based heavily on the latest and greatest RR, which is a good thing. And it's got the same non-shift cam engine in it. 165 brake horsepower, 84 foot-pounds of torque, wider, more usable rev range, 3 riding modes, traction control and cornering ABS as standard. That's all you need as far as electronics concerned, as far as I care. 6.5 kilograms of weight reduction, always a good thing. Brakes and suspension are straight off the RR. Impressive 6.5-inch colour TFT dash. Major styling makeover, complete with this striking new LED headlight, it says here. And the base S1000R is £12,055, which is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but seems like quite a lot of bike for the money, and I think it looks lovely now. Really like this. Can't wait to have a go. So yeah, thumbs up as far as I'm concerned on first glance on the BMW S1000R. Let's have a go on that and see what we think. New Panigale as well. Couldn't pass up this page without looking at this. The new Panigale VS. This is upgrades from the Super Leggera on the exotic new Ducati. Incredible bit of kit. If you want the new Panigale V4 SP, it'll cost you £32,000, 295. So not for the faint-hearted, but it is a special edition with this lovely paint job on it as well. But yeah, if you see one of those, then yeah, nice. So it's basically, it's called the Panigale V4 SP, and it's basically pimped up for the racetrack. Not a bike you're going to see many of, I suggest, at 32 grand, but yeah, lovely bit of kit as a technology demonstrator. And then at the bottom here, while we're on Ducatis, a new Super Sport. The Ducati Super Sport, when it came out, again, feels like 2 or 3 years ago now, I wasn't over enamoured with it. As a Panigale owner, it didn't quite go as well as I thought it was going to do. It was a bit more comfortable, I'm glad to say. But I didn't like the way the fairing wrapped around the front yoke, and it just looked odd when you're riding it. And I didn't like the looks of the bike generally. It's had a styling makeover, looks much better now, much more Panigale-esque actually. So Good move, I think, from Ducati. I'd like to go on one of these now. It looks a lot nicer bike. It says here they've blinged it up, the Super Sport 950 for 2021. It's now got cornering ABS, traction and wheelie control as standard. Great. 4.3 inch TFT, up and down quick shifter. It's got all the things I like the sound of here. LED headlight, adds a Panigale-like frown, it says here, I agree. Base model, £12,295 in red, or if you want the white one with the Oleans suspension, that's the S, that will cost you £13,895. I think the white one does look lovely, but that's nearly 14 grand for that bike. When for 15 you could get the Panigale, the small one, the V2. Tricky choice, but again, looking much better now. Now I'm interested in the Super Sport. A lot to go on that. Oh, and if you want to pop as well, another one, this page is full of bikes I like. The Goldwing, what an amazing bike. If you pop down to HGB over in, where are they now? I can't remember where they are. They're my local Honda dealer, basically. It says here, Northwest London, HGB Motorcycles. Haven't seen those guys for ages. Hello if you're watching. They've got some great deals on Goldwings. Look at this, 24 grand for a Honda Goldwing Tour. It's a manual version. I've only got one of them. Snap it up if you fancy a Goldwing like I do. Brilliant. Next up, Honda ready to turn back time. Check this out. I'm a sucker for a retro bike, and Honda have done what Kawasaki did with the Z900 RS, and they've taken an existing bike. In this case, I think it's the CB 1000R, yes, and retroise it. Just put some more clothes on it to make it look like an older bike, and I think they've done an absolutely cracking job. In my mind, it reminds me of the old Honda 250 Super Dream, a bike from my past. It may not you, it's not based on that, but I just think this looks lovely. It's got undoubtedly retro, but it's got a cleanness about it that I really like. What does it say here? Oh, it's a computer image. This computer image is our best look yet. Honda's new CB1000F retro style roadster, which was first teased by the Japanese giant back in March. As such, it takes a similar approach to Kawasaki's Z1 inspired Z900 RS. Honda have yet to confirm that the bike is even going ahead. Oh, that's a shame. Please make it Honda. Rumours from Japan suggest production version is imminent, however, so it sounds like they probably are. It pays homage to the CB900F. That's the bike it's harping back to, not a bike I know anything about. But it is based on the current CB1000R. Liquid cooled 998cc 4-cylinder bike. Fuel tank and bodywork are all new. Could go on sale at the back end of next year if it does come into production. Would love a go on that. That is a cracking looking motorcycle, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old, but I think that looks great. Nice one, Honda. Right, last story before we get on to parish notices. In a rush to spend 32 grand, here we go, MV Augusta Rush 1000. This is quite a bike, isn't it? Striking looking beast, mainly because of this covered rear wheel that it's got. It's sort of dragster inspired, I think it is. I assume that's done for aerodynamic reasons. Incredible looking machine, again, 32 grand, so very expensive bike here. I mentioned this because I rode the MV Augusta Super Veloce recently up at my friends at Crazy Horse Customs in Bury St Edmunds. I'll stick a link to that video if you've not seen it. They've got the Rush in now. It's currently with MCN as we speak. I spoke to them yesterday about this, and they've said I can ride it whenever I want. In fact, I think it's by the time you see this video, it will be back. So as soon as we get a nice weather day that's kind of settled high pressure, and I can see it's going to be all right, it takes me a bit of doing to get to Bury St Edmunds, I'm going to nip up there and I'm going to have a go on this Rush. I think only something like 300 have been made. So it's a very special bike. So to be offered to have a go on it, I'm very humbled, so thank you again to those guys. Look out for this on my channel at some point soon. Anyway, it's fast, loud, flamboyant, and if you want one of the 300 being made, it'll cost you $32,800. It's based on the Brutale 1000R. Aha, there you are. Sorry about that. Camera overheated and turned itself off. This is the new GoPro 9 that I was telling you about. Not too impressed so far with it, I have to say. Anyway, took the battery out, stuck the camera and the battery in the freezer for 10 minutes, and now it seems to be operating again. So I better crack on, finish off this, do the parish notices, and hopefully we'll get away with it. But I have to keep an eye on that. So thumbs down for the GoPro 9 so far. How's the image quality looking anyway? Right, where were we with the Rush? So yeah, so I said it was based on the Brutale 1000RR. It's got a race-tuned 205 brake horsepower inline 4-cylinder engine, semi-active Öhlins forks, Brembo style Yamaha calipers, Pirelli Super Corsa tyres, hand-stitched Alcantara seat, cornering, traction control, 8 levels of that, and ABS, anti-wheelie, cruise, launch control, 4 modes and a colour dash that links to your phone. So all the electronics plus more you could possibly ever want. Forged aluminium rear is fitted with a carbon hubcap. That's the thing I was talking about. An impressive collection of exotic parts. And let's face it, divisive styling, it says here. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it does, the styling, I guess, you either love it or hate it. I think looking at the pictures, I think it looks pretty cool. But it's quite a mishmash, isn't it? I'll reserve judgment till I see it in the flesh, and as I say, hopefully I will see it in the flesh. I'll get to ride this beast as well, carefully at 32 grand, don't want to drop that puppy, and I'll tell you what I think of it. But it's going to be one of those bikes that, you know, too much for the road really, isn't it? Well, absolutely is, but just as a bit of exotica, if you're super wealthy and you've got that sort of money, might be one to consider as a bit of art. All right, that's it for the bike news. Let me get on to some parish notices before the camera overheats again. Few things I want to tell you about, upcoming videos, that sort of thing. First off, just a couple of reminders. In the description below, there's always some money off stuff. So the stuff that I've got at the moment, 15% off of custom fit guards. A little Christmas present to yourself, maybe. The earplugs that I always use, again, channel sponsors. They've upped the discount, which is very good of them. 15% off now. If you go to the the link below, you can get 15% off of those. 10% off of the Light Lock bike lock, which is the lock that I've been using of late. More about that coming on the channel soon. 10% offer there. I mentioned already the garage door barrier that I use. That so many people ask me whenever they see me use it on my videos, what is that garage door barrier? It's from Guardsman. Sorry, it's for Image 4 Security. It's called the Guardsman. 50 quid I can get you off of that if you use the code. I think it's TMF50. Again, details below. 10% off of Ducati spacers. Those are great things. And 20% off of Speedo Angels screen protectors as well. And just going back to the Ducati spacers, it's not just Ducati throttle spacers I'm talking about there, but also if you've got a ride-by-wire trump, many of those can be fitted as well. Again, check the details out below. They just transform the handling, low-speed handling of your bike. All right, that's that. I also want to just say to you, I want to send my apologies to you, basically. If you sent me a message in the last few weeks or months, I get so many messages now, both here on YouTube and also on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. I get emails, private ones, and stuff via the website, all sorts of stuff coming in, hundreds and hundreds of messages a day. I'm not complaining, it's a great thing. I promise to read them all, but I do apologise if I haven't got back to you. There's just too many for me to deal with now. I try and respond to as many as I can. I particularly try and respond to the stuff on YouTube because that's obviously where my focus is. So if you really want a response, ask me a question and put it on the YouTube stuff. I'm more likely to answer it there probably than anywhere, but I promise you I do read all the other stuff. I will be aware of what you said, even if I've not come back to you. So a little bit of an apologies there. It's just once your channel gets to these sort of sizes, it's just too hard for one person to manage in terms of all the messages coming in. So sorry about that. I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying not to be a horrible person. So that's that. Upcoming videos, a few things I want to tell you about before the next bike news. So there's a bonus video coming tomorrow, another new bike being launched, one that's dear to my heart. So stick around, stay tuned for that. Can't say anything else about that at this point. There's going to be more on the V2, the lovely little Panigale. I say little, of course, it's nearly a litre. It used to be a big bike, but beautiful bike. I, of course, have got the 899. I'm a big fan. The 899 morphed its way via the 959 into the V2. So I've done a video that I've been asked for a lot about the difference or what is the 899 like versus the V2. So comparison video coming up. That's a good one, I hope. I've got a special living with video coming all about the current Triumph Speed Twin, a bike I hadn't ridden for a while. I did have it in the summer for a couple of weeks, and I did one of my in-depth reviews. This is the ones where I don't just stand by my fence and tell you what I thought of it, what the pros and cons were. I do that as well, but I also ride it at night, in rain, on motorways, twisty roads, on tour, everything and everything about the Speed Twin. It's a sort of a late model now. We're all expecting it's going to be upgraded at some point. I don't have any inside knowledge on that, by the way, but I have got a video coming up all about what it's like to live with the Speed Triple. Gosh, the Triumph names are so complicated now, and being a Speed Twin owner, I'm always tripping up on this. So yeah, the Speed Triple, sorry, they're bruising naked. That's the video coming up on that. I've also, on December the 21st, heading towards the big C word, I've got my top bikes of 2020 video coming up. I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you. It's something that I'm asked about all the time. What are my favourite bikes? I know Chopsy did a video on this recently, but I actually filmed mine before he did his. We were discussing the. We have a little chat on not Instagram, whatever you do, the chatting thing with. Me and him were having a chat about this, so I'm not copying him, I promise. And it'll be interesting to see whether my top 5, in fact, I've done, are the same as his top 5. I can tell you now, they're not. All right, there is some overlap though. Next up, the first of my Super Duke R videos. Again, a bike I had back in the summer. Again, one of the bruising nakeds, incredibly performant bikes. First of those videos you'll see coming up. I've got some extra videos in the can that I'm going to post possibly on Saturdays or Sundays. These are videos that I always get slagged off about, where it's just the exhaust noise of a particular bike I've borrowed. I've held a few back because I did get a bit of criticism for just putting a video up of exhaust noises, but in the cases of these particular bikes that I'm going to release anyway, I've got them in the can. I might as well put the videos out there, so don't hate me for doing that. They're over and above my normal Monday and Thursday videos, so those are going to go out as well. And they might just be useful for people that are deciding to buy those particular bikes, because to me, what a bike sounds like is a big part of of whether I would buy a bike or not. And that sounds silly, but that is the case. So that's why those videos are going up. Again, don't flame me for those. Next bike news video like this is coming up on December the 31st, so last day of the year. I'll talk to you then and give you all the lowdown then. All right, that's it for now. Thank you as ever to all my patrons and members for supporting the channel. Couldn't do this without you guys. It keeps me able to do as much content as I do here on the Missed and Fly, so thank you, big thumbs up to you, and of course my loyal sponsors next to you guys as well. All right, that's it for now. Till next time, this has been the Missed and Fly. Cheerio.